G'day everyone. Today I'm fitting SR5 flares to my SR Hilux. Now this is a 2007. The flare design and fitment's the same, 2005 all the way through to 2015. They did facelift in 2011, so you may want to check your front flares because they're probably going to be different. I'm going to start with the rear here. The mounting points here are in all the range of these Hilux, so you can screw straight onto those. We just got to find screws to fit. This is what I came up with. They're a good size screw, 25mm long, and they screw in really well. The flares have a pinch weld around the outside. Just make sure we glue them on. And then basically we've just got to, like I'm doing here, just screw them on in every mounting point that you can find. They should be a good fit. The flares I've got here, they're genuine SR5 flares, and they're quite easily lined up. You just have to manipulate them a little bit with your hands, but nothing major at all. Once we've got the flare on, the mud flap will bolt on top of the flare. It doesn't go behind it, it goes on top of the flare like I'm about to do here. The screws that come out of the mud flap should be more than adequate to go back through. There's enough length on those to go back through the flare and into the body where they originally came from, and they should be a good fit. You may have to manipulate it here a bit as well. Obviously you're trying to screw through the rubber and the plastic, but I didn't find it too much of a drama. There's quite a bit of movement there, and you can just screw straight through. Okay, as for the front flare, you'll see I've got a host of blue and orange clips. Now they came with the front flares. The original SR5 guards have a heap of square holes designed to accommodate for these clips. I don't have the ability to drill a square hole, so I'm going with round. I did test on a piece of scrap steel with a 3/8 hole for the blue clips and a 10.5mm for the orange, and they fit pretty well, so I'm going to go with that. And obviously the orange and blue clips only fit on the flare in certain spots. The orange ones are bigger, and you'll be able to tell the difference because they don't fit. These tabs I'm holding here, they actually bend quite a bit, and they're meant to contort to the inside of the guard, so they are quite flexible. Just don't snap them off. I'm going to fit the pinch weld here all along the edge. It's pretty straightforward. You just start on one edge, work your way all the way around, and I'm going to cut off the excess for that pinch weld. Just make sure it's nice and even. It's a pain in the ass to work with, but it does work. You get it all on there, it looks neat and tidy against the guard of the car. Once you get to the very end, cut off your excess, and I'm actually going to use a little bit of super glue here. You just see it here. I'll drop a little bit of super glue just in some random spots, usually where there's a bit of a curve or an edge where I don't want it coming off. And the super glue should hold it just in place there without too many dramas at all. Now, same as the rear, we've got to take the mud flap off first. That will be going back on top of the flare once we have the flare fully fitted. Same thing, there's 3 screws to get them off, 10mm heads. One's right inside there. They can be quite rusted as well. If it's anything like my car, it's been around a while. It comes off without too many dramas though, and them screws are more than long enough to go back in on top of the flare. Now what I do here, I've got the flare with the blue and the orange clips already fitted, and I'm going to just line it up to where I want it to be. Now I didn't get a template with my flares. I did buy them secondhand. Not sure if you get them brand new, but I don't have one, so this is what we did. Just line it up, and I've just marked out where each one is, and I've made a little mark where I'm going to drill my hole. I've just got a little screwdriver here, just make a little mark in the paint, and then I mark up all the holes. You can see I've done there all the ones I'm going to use. I'm just going to double check that each clip actually touches the black mark that I've made before I want to go ahead and drill holes into my guard. I'm never a big fan of drilling holes in my car, but this is a necessary thing, so I'm going to do it. If you don't want to drill holes in your guard, I guess there's no reason you can't leave the clips out and just glue them on. A lot of them are just Sikaflexed on, especially the aftermarket ones. But I'm going to go ahead and drill them, and I'm just hoping they're in the right spot. All right, once we're happy that the holes are 100% good, we're going to go ahead and drill. I pilot drilled them all first, and then I drilled them to full size. If you don't want to drill holes in your guard, you don't really have to. You can glue these flares on. I do think drilling and putting the clips in is much better, but you can glue them if you don't want to do that. Like I said here, I drilled 3/8 for the blue ones, and I drilled 10.5 for the orange ones. You can see here I'm trialing an orange one. The hole's still not big enough, so we went a little bit bigger. And I found they all fit pretty well, even though the holes are round. It's not perfect, but they do fit quite nicely, with the 3/8 for the blue and the 10.5 for the orange. Now I did countersink them a little bit here. I just basically tidying up with the countersink bit, the burrs, and then I'm going to go ahead and touch them up with a bit of paint. What I used here is Caterpillar Matterhorn white. It's actually a really good match for the Hilux white. Obviously, if you don't have access to that, any white will do. It doesn't even have to be white, really. No one's going to see it. You can use a paint pen. You can use nail polish. You can use preservative. Anything to stop any rust happening in that area is just the last thing that you want. You don't want to have rust leaking through because you didn't touch up the paint, really. And once we touched up all that paint, we just want to trial fit once it's dry. One of the blue clips here, and it was a really nice fit. I was actually really glad it popped in. It can be very hard when you're pushing the guard on to try and create that much force. So what I actually did was I fitted all the clips to the guard, as you can see here, and then I pushed the flare onto those and engaged the flare that way around. It doesn't really matter which way around you do it, whichever way works best for you. That's what worked best for me. Once you get them all engaged, you can go ahead and put all the screws up into the bottom of the guard there. Same as the rear flare, the screw holes are all there. There might be a bit of manipulation to get it to fit. I had to move mine around quite a bit, but they do all line up eventually. Without too many dramas. It's not a particularly hard thing to line up. They're not perfect from day one. Once you've got the flare in place, there's nothing too difficult about installing these screws here. It's exactly the same as the rear. They just conform to the inside of the guard here a bit more than the rears do, because them tabs are designed to be quite bendy. But I'll just wind them up with a 1/4-inch ratchet just so they're snug, and it works very well. Same as the rear. Once it's all done, put the mud guard on, or the mud flap on, with the same 3 screws that came out. Same as the rear as well. They can be a little bit hard to line up. If you leave everything a little bit loose, you get a bit more movement. But they do eventually go in, and I didn't have too many dramas getting them back in there and tight. Now, lastly, the bottom requires a screw and a clip in the fender to secure it. You can see it just down here. You will need to drop the side steps to fit that, and you will need to put a clip into the fender that I don't have. And that is how it looks all finished. I'm pretty happy. It modernizes the car a lot, and it looks great. Thanks for watching.